5 things you need to know about sowing seeds. Perhaps this is your first gardening adventure and you've been out to the garden centre and bought all brand new seed trays and pots. But if not, if like me you've got last year's pots and trays, or maybe a friend's given you some, then the likelihood is they're covered in dirt. And all of us have been lazy and left that on there, but the truth is it harbours tons of bacteria, and you spent the money, you've put the effort, the time, the work in, so you want your seeds to get the best start in life. All you need to do is get that dirty tray, get a brush off the dirt, and then sink the trays and pots into a bucket of 1 part bleach, 9 parts water, leave it to soak and then rinse it off. Once it's dry, you're good to go with fresh, clean pots ready to receive all of your seed. As a rule, larger seeds like my favourite, the teddy bear sunflower, which looks like you could actually cuddle it, dwarf, gorgeous variety, things like that, or cerinthes, you can just pop that into an individual cell or a pot. But finer things like another one I have here, show and tell, ladybird poppies, heartily recommend them, beautiful black ladybird splodges on scarlet petals. They're fine seed, and generally the books say you can mix that with sand so you get a nice even distribution on your seed tray, but really I've just found that if you get some in your hand and you can pinch it and sprinkle over the seed tray, then you get an even enough distribution. Of course, you might want to grow sweet peas, and they famously hate root disturbance, which is why you'll see root trainers, these long root trainers in garden centres. You can use those, or the good news is toilet roll tubes and kitchen roll tubes, once you've finished with the toilet roll and kitchen roll of course, they can be used, filled up with soil, pop your sweet pea in there, and when it's nice and grown, you can then transplant it whether into the garden to grow up canes or into another pot with that tube, because it's compostable and it will just decompose into the soil. The ins and outs of whether a seed needs light or dark to germinate are actually incredibly complicated, so it's not just you and me that have difficulty deciding. The most important thing is you don't want your seed to blow away. So if you get yourself a bag of vermiculite from any supermarket, garden centre, budget store, it's basically a mineral product that you can sprinkle on top of your seeds. It will let the light through, but crucially it will stop the seed blowing away if it's small and dainty and fine, and it will lock in moisture. And if your seeds don't germinate, this whole thing is just one big adventure, one big voyage of discovery. Cover them up, put them in the dark and see if that gets them to germinate. And once they have germinated, they'll want the light anyway. Now, when it comes to temperature, the seed packet's going to tell you something, and any information you can get from that seed packet, you've paid for it, use it. But as a rule, most things, particularly if you want to beat the weather and get a head start, will want some bottom heat. And you can get that from plenty of inexpensive propagators. You'll find quite small ones that any of us have room for on our windowsills in any garden centre. Or if you really want to save your pennies, you can create almost a mini propagator for an individual pot by popping a polythene bag over the top. That will lock all your heat in, and once your seed has started to germinate, then whip the bag off so you can get all that air and ventilation to it. The beginning of your seed's life is absolutely crucial, and it doesn't want, like most of us, any unnecessary stress. So make sure it doesn't dry out. Don't do what I've done in the past and just leave your seed tray languishing in water constantly, because it's one sure way that you'll set your seeds up for a very stressful start to their lives, and they may just rot away entirely. Of course, you may get away with it, as I have done in the past, but generally, as a rule, stand your seed tray or your cells into water until they're moist and then take them out. Or you can also water from above. Don't slosh water in there, because all your seeds will be dislodged and your fine, even sprinkling will have been for naught. But a nice, attractive, photogenic watering can like this with a fine rose will do the trick. You can just sprinkle water over the top and keep doing that whenever they're in need of it so they don't dry out. Pricking out is a term you will hear a lot when it comes to growing seeds, and it's basically a comedy term for transplanting your seeds when they need to fledge the nest. You'll know it's the right time because if you're new to this, all the seeds will start off looking pretty much the same. They'll get a couple of seed leaves, and unless we're talking about grass or irises, which won't get those sorts of seed leaves, but that's another topic for another video, then they'll look the same to start off with, generic leaves, and then they'll start to get a set of leaves that look like the plant you're actually trying to grow, and they're the true leaves, and that's when you're going to start pricking out. So if you're going to do what I do, it's get a culinary fork. This will allow you all of the delicate manoeuvring power you need. You just insert it below, wiggle about and free up those roots, and then transplant it into your next pot, which should be ready and got enough compost in. You can pop it in there, fill up, firm in, and you're good to go. Just make sure, if that seedling starts to topple about, that you don't grab its stem or its new leaves. If you need to stabilise it at any point, just touch the seed leaves, but handle with care, they're still incredibly fragile. Now this one probably sounds stupid, but if you have grown seeds before, you've probably been there. 9 different types of sunflower and several other varieties of seed, from cornflowers to poppies and marigolds, and you think, I'll remember that the sunflowers are in the red pots, and I'll remember that the teddy bear sunflowers are in yellow pots. You won't remember. I never remember. Even if your labels are at the other end of the house, if your pen is upstairs and you're downstairs, if you've left everything in the car from your recent trip to the garden centre, go and get it and label immediately. These are your bog standard white labels, and I've been led to believe that pencil will last better than pen, and sure enough, this says Cosmos Bright Lights, and this was written probably about 2 years ago, so it stood the test of time. If you do that and you label and you keep transplanting that label when you move your seedlings on, then you'll know what you're growing, and fingers crossed, if you abide by these 5 simple rules, you should have some very successful young and healthy plants for a brand new year of gardening.